Today, who knew that if you stretched out a bungee this far, it would snap? This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint, where we're always happy to learn new things.
For example, I learned that if you put goldfish crackers and trail mix in your mouth at the same time, you cannot stop eating it.
What an amazing discovery.
It's Sonic's 30th anniversary, and in all that time, he still hasn't managed to outdo Mario. Hey, don't shoot the extremely smug messenger. I got that practically verbatim from Sega's executive director Osamu Ohashi. When asked in a recent interview how Sega plans to grow Sonic, he replied, "Simply put, I want to surpass Mario. Sonic was a game originally developed to compete with Mario, and we have yet to achieve that. Because we respect Mario, my goal is to catch up to and surpass him." Which is a fine and obvious goal coming from Sonic's #1 booster and fan. Sonic's the fastest thing around, and I'm sure if he just keeps running, he'll eventually pass Mario. But you know, what the hell is it gonna take? Sonic's already appeared in over 100 games. You can find Mario in up to 230. Sonic's got 2 movies under his belt. Mario technically has 3. Sonic's had 6 animated television shows, whereas Mario has only been in 2, barely 3 if you count Donkey Kong. Look, it's Sonic's 30th anniversary, and he's hung in there, but I think it might be time to pick a new goal. Just look at the 2 latest games on Metacritic. Mario Wonder has a score of 92. Sonic Superstars has 73. In fact, if you search Metacritic for all video games with Sonic in the title, Sonic Advance comes in at the highest at 87. Maybe Sonic isn't a video game mascot. Maybe he's a Sega mascot. Sonic is super appealing in animation, and his 2 movies are, admittedly, entertaining. Maybe that's his strength? Chili dogs, fart jokes, saving the environment with rock music. Maybe that's where Sonic finds his success. And hey, if you really want Sonic to have his own theme park at Universal Studios Japan, as was also mentioned in the same interview, I can think of no better way to appeal to modern audiences than having a meet and greet coffee symposium with Knuckles the himbo feminist. He's a little clunky, but he's got the spirit.
If I say to you, there's a free-to-play game with a $20 Founders Pack that gives you over 100 tiers of rewards and influence points, plus additional exclusive cosmetics, are you going to guess I'm talking about Silent Hill? I wouldn't have either, but here we are. Silent Hill Ascension premiered on Halloween, and it's not been going great. It's positioned as kind of a heyday of Telltale choose-your-adventure game where your choices have consequences that play out in short scenes, and the scenes air on the Ascension app and website every night for 6 months, eventually building the canon narrative of this plot from community-voted choices. But it really feels like Twitch plays Pokemon with a battle pass. No, actually, there's a battle pass, and yes, that reward is a sticker that says, "It's trauma," in rainbow letters. Because it's impossible to take anything with a battle pass seriously, so why not lean into memes, eh? There's also a currency system of influence points, which is how you vote on which choices to make, and you earn them by buying the battle pass, or logging in to claim your dailies, or just a straight microtransaction, or by playing a handful of simple grandparent-friendly puzzle games, but only the ones you don't also need the battle pass to play. All of this means that, despite the CEO's repeated protestations that the numbers make it wholly impractical to vote by wallet, the optics are certainly there that it's pay to win. At least once the initial burst of users wears down and it's only the diehards with their millions of influence points trying to win the cameo contest so their avatar can appear awkwardly in the background of shot like an extra who wandered onto the first unit's set. Hey Graham, what's it like seeing a beloved and acclaimed retro franchise reduced to an MTX-riddled choose-your-own-adventure by committee? Ah, well, for $28 Canadian, I can buy a cosmetic that sums that up.
In another blockbuster deal that is sure to shake the foundations of the video game industry to its overworked, underappreciated core, it was recently announced that early pioneer of modern video gaming, Atari, will be acquiring Digital Eclipse. Atari is putting everything they've got into developing a winning strategy in the market and is choosing Digital Eclipse to pursue a retro-focused strategy, dovetailing with their recent purchase of Night Dive Studios and an earlier acquisition of 10 beloved retro titles and also Berserk and Frenzy. And they're doing it for a steal of a deal, only $65 billion.
I need you to read that again.
$6.5 million. Yeah, I should have probably read the script more carefully. Well, let's move on. Does that not seem absurd? I mean, I can understand Microsoft having access to $6.5 million, but where would Atari even get all that cash? Perhaps a cadre of oligarchs, or oil tycoons, or tech bro venture capitalists? But then how would you talk all these billionaires into parting with the hefty sum of $6 million? Surely this means Atari sees a multi-million-dollar market for selling old video games to people like me who would really like a do-over with this whole story? No?
No.
Okay.
A2, Bungie? Years ago on CheckPoint, we used to simply not cover stories of people getting laid off because we didn't want to make it seem like we were joking about it. More recently, we've moved to a policy of simply making sure that the butt of the joke is very clearly not the poor employees, but rather the executives responsible. Certainly ones like Bungie CEO Pete Parsons, who just laid off 100 employees and then tweeted this, quote, "Today is a sad day at Bungie as we say goodbye to colleagues who have all made significant impact on our studio. What these exceptional individuals have contributed to our games and Bungie culture has been enormous and will continue to be a part of Bungie long into the future." Then why'd you fire them, Pete? It's been made clear by Bungie that these layoffs were not a Sony decision. This was Bungie's call, which makes it your call. And why even tweet that if you're going to be so tone deaf? It would have been better to say nothing, which you'd know if you hadn't just laid off your social media team. A social media team who, like swaths of QA and Bungie's longtime composer Michael Salvatore, won't be able to now vest the Sony stock they acquired after that buyout. Remember that not only were Bungie employees told that layoffs would not be coming, but a Sony earnings report showed that $1.2 billion of Sony's $4 billion acquisition of Bungie was going explicitly towards staff retention. But don't worry, in a town hall to address the layoffs, Parsons assured remaining employees that they'd kept the right people to carry Bungie forward, which I guess was supposed to sound good to the people who weren't laid off, but it would somehow make me feel even more anxious than before. All of this is apparently because Destiny 2, a game I assure you people still regularly play and sometimes enjoy, failed to meet projections. Sagging pre-orders for the upcoming expansion, The Final Shape, and poor player retention during the previous expansion, Lightfall, anecdotally, because I'm told they bravely chose to make the game less fun, both seemingly led to Bungie missing its fiscal targets by 45%. 45%? Jesus! Who made those targets? Maybe fire them. It's like when Square Enix said Tomb Raider sales were disappointing because they only sold 3.4 million copies instead of 6 million. Former employees have anonymously reported that problems were raised to managers with solutions to make the game fun for players again, but that feedback was ignored. Well, firing 100 people sure isn't going to engender confidence in a potentially returning player base. The Final Shape is now delayed by 4 months, which is unsurprising since they've got fewer people now. And the extraction shooter carrying Marathon's name and Bungie's future hopes has been delayed from 2024 to 2025, possibly because it sucks. Bungie allegedly held a summit for a bunch of Escape from Tarkov players to see what they thought, and the reception was tepid. But I mean, Tarkov players don't like anything, so maybe Bungie's on the right track. I'd fucking hope so, since Marathon's been in development since 2019. But it would be some wild cosmic irony if 30 years after Marathon put Bungie on the map, Marathon was what finally put Bungie out of business. Some real Shakespeare dying on his birthday shit.
Hey now, do you think Shakespeare would appreciate that?
I like to think that if I brought Shakespeare through time to the studio and showed him an episode of Checkpoint, that he'd say, what are these lamps that light without flame, and how have you trapped tiny demons inside this obsidian mirror?
Yeah, I gotta ask Heather how she does that. Coming up, Microsoft has banned all unauthorized controllers from the Xbox, which renders third-party accessibility devices completely unusable, cutting off an already marginalized group of players from their games. But hey, at least that means your big brother won't stick you with the Mad Cats! Obviously, the reason Microsoft is doing that is because they have made claims that, oh my god, cheating is terrible in fighting games and in other online games and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, yes, okay, I get you.
Sure,
I
yeah.
feel you.
And?
Yeah. And so we're gonna cut all that stuff off. It's like, but the accessibility. Well, we have an accessibility control. But these people already own accessibility controllers.
Yeah.
But they can use ours. It's efficient. Yes, but these people are okay. It seems like it's one of those we knew we were going to piss everybody off and we did it anyway kind of situations.
We might be seeing some of that walked back.
Yeah.
We're not going to see walked back is this Bungie thing. I mention it because just today, like between writing that story and recording, they released a statement. Is our path forward from the Destiny 2 dev team. And it's like, this is the most very clearly written by high-level executive management.
Possibly not even Bungie management?
Statement. No,
probably Bungie management.
Probably.
They get the names of the expansions right at least?
They did.
Okay.
Apparently the upper echelons of Bungie have some issues. I mean, clearly, what with these layoffs. But yeah, it's like, this has been a very difficult week for our studio. It's such a non-message. It's just like, don't worry. To us, the path forward is clear. We need to make the final shape an unforgettable Destiny experience. I
should hope so.
It's an ad. It's just this statement, which should have just been about the people who were laid off, is really it's just an ad about we're gonna make it great.
They had that line in there that I'm surprised this isn't like black text on a yellow background, because even had the line in there like, we understand that we've lost your trust and we need to earn it back. And it's like, fuck off. Just straight up fuck off.
Yeah, we know we've lost a lot of your trust. Destiny needs to surprise and delight. We haven't done this enough, and that's going to change. And it's like...
The good news is we found the 100 people who are responsible for that.
Yeah.
And they're gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you... Okay, I alluded to it in the story. If you were at the town hall and the CEO said, don't worry, we've kept the right people, would you not be like, oh...
I know how...
Would you not, as one of the, maybe this is survivor guilt, but would you, as one of the people who didn't get laid off, not feel gross being referred to as the right people?
I mean, in a way, I might give into my whole, holy shit, I'm glad I'm one of the right people. Don't let them look too closely at the work I've been doing.
Yeah, I guess. It's so weird.
As I have to assume that, like anybody else, when you're performing at that level, or when you're doing that kind of work, half of you have imposter syndrome anyway, and you're just just don't let anybody know that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Oh, I don't know what I have, but I'm clearly not good enough to have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Gosh, can you imagine? Briefly for the Silent Hill thing, I didn't get into it in the story, but also it's bad. There's all the cruft that I talked about that makes it really just sort of ugh. But I watched a couple of the scenes and they're not well voice acted, they're mediocrely animated, people's mouths don't move properly. It's not definitely they're riding on the the graphics aren't amazing because it's this, interactive experience. And it's sure. But if you miss the interactive part and you're only watching to sort of catch up, that experience licks. It's not good. And that shot that we showed of the people, so you can every week there's a cameo contest because you can design your avatar.
Oh, it's not for
right?
in the new game. It's in this game you can have a person just sitting there.
Yeah, and so in the background of that shot, it's featuring this user and this user as detectives who are visible in one shot. They're visible very briefly in that. It's oh look, I'm no longer in that.
Goodbye.
Scene. And I saw an interview with the guy before launch, and he was he was really leaning on the people get to collaborate and decide the canon story. The decisions you make are now in Silent Hill canon. And it's sure. And because Silent Hill games, broadly speaking, don't really care about each other.
Right.
Right? So it's like, sure. And then when this is done, it's like, yeah, I affected the canon outcome of that game. And then they'll make a new Silent Hill game that will have no reference to that at all,
Yeah.
I guess. It's so very weird. What did you say you wrote something down in the...
Oh, that it's like, if you really want, like, would you rather be playing Silent Hill Pachinko instead?
Right.
Because at least you get to do something way more fun in video gaming, like meet Yakuza.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to say, actually,
Yeah.
based on video game quality,
Sure.
doing the Metacritic scores for Mario and Sonic.
Which people are always going to be like, oh, Metacritic, like, whatever.
That
I had to go to a place.
70 something for the new Sonic game. That was a little PS5 box. I was like, that's better than I thought it was.
Yes.
And
actually,
like Sonic Advance, I remember Sonic Advance, and it's like, really, only 87? Sonic Advance kind of ruled, right? They don't suck. Sonic games. There are good Sonic games and good recent Sonic games. 73 is like, I was worried this would be like in the mid 60s, but like, you know what? That's not bad, actually.
Yeah. But I mean, like Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Not a patch on Mario Wonder, but
yeah. Sonic Hedgehog 2, like the original Sonic the Hedgehog 2,
classic,
got like an 84.
What?
Right. So it's like
weird.
All of these games are always rated relative to the games that are coming out at the time that those games are being revealed anyway. It's why Ocarina of Time has 100, right? It's like that's why that was like because it was like, wow, you jumped the whole Zelda model from this to this, and people lost their minds about it. And it wasn't, and it still is, an amazing game.
Yeah.
But if that game was to come out today and you were to rate it against everything else, like somebody like a 20-year-old, like in a vacuum, right? If they're just kind of like, I played this game now, it's like, man, this is a really fun game. I totally give this a 92. Like that kind of attitude, I think would be more prevalent. So that's why I was like, I want to look at what Wonder is doing next to Superstars. I mean, Sonic Frontiers did not rate that high either, but it was still like, it did all right, but it did not crawl up the thing. And it's just...
One other note that I didn't also put into the Bungie story this relates to sort of game quality.
Sure.
Because one aspect that people are theorizing of why Bungie might have missed those targets, which again, it seemed like a baffling thing to like by 45%.
That means somebody didn't have a realistic idea of what was going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is that 2023 especially, but also for a bit in 2022 they've been very good years for video games, right? There's a lot of like games that were delayed during the pandemic finally being released, and it feels like 2023 has just been like back-to-back bangers.
We were talking about this
very good games.
Like we were talking about this in the Discord, right? That it's like in 2023, like Tears of the Kingdom comes out, and people played that for 200 hours, 400 hours, however long they've played it for. People who wanted to play that game. Let's make that clear. And they missed out on a ton of stuff. Like when Elden Ring came out, people played Elden Ring for 200, 400 hours, and they missed several months of other games coming out. And they're kind of just in the process of catching up on that stuff now. So if you run a live service game during the time when all these non-live service games were finally arriving, you were going to get your ass kicked. Yeah. Because people have been waiting for those for years, and they're like, well, now I got to dump a ton of time into this because I'm like fully invested. I'm almost addicted to this, right? Actually, the thing that I do want to mention that I think this is interesting about the Atari thing. So Digital Eclipse did the System Shock remake.
Yes.
I always want to not let that go by if I can help it.
I thought that was Night Dive.
Sorry, Night Dive did the System Shock remake. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, Night Dive did that. Digital Eclipse has been doing things. They've been doing updates of older games. Like they did TMNT Shredder's Revenge, I think.
Well, and notably, they did the big Atari collection.
Yeah, Atari 50.
The very well-reviewed, like, loving ode to old Atari games in the Atari collection. So it makes sense that whatever shambling mass is calling themselves Atari these days would want to buy them.
So they've done lots of, apparently they've done, Capcom collections and other stuff as well. So it's like, Digital Eclipse has had their fingers in a lot of this stuff. Night Dive doing System Shock and then being acquired by Atari too. And it does make me think that I'm like, right, so whoever it is that owns Atari now, I think their strategy is, okay, we can't sell adventure over and over to people. That's not going to work. But we have done it enough so far that maybe we can use some of that money to sell other older games. And it started to make me it put me in mind of like limited run games and strictly physical games and stuff like that, to be like, these people have a very niche area of the market that they focus on, where they take indie games or they like limited run games and say, well, we're going to make physical collections and like a bunch of objects and stuff and like paraphernalia to go along with it. And I'm like, is Atari now want to lean into this idea of like, hey, are you a developer that did a game in the past that people loved and want to see it be good, like out there again? Because System Shock was apparently an amazing game, which I've never played. Well, we can do that. We can acquire this IP, or we can work with you to make those things happen, and we can see this in the future. I'm like, God, yeah, we're probably going to see, if this is their strategy now, we're probably going to see like games from the 90s, games from the 2000s getting updated to 4K. And I think that's their actual strat, is to be like, bring back all this old nostalgia gear, dump it into 4K, get people playing the old games again. I think that's what they're thinking, where their feet are. Let's see if it pays off for them, right?
Makes sense. Hey, real quick, no checkpoint for 2 weeks because we have Desert Bus. Tune in to desertbus.org. Go to twitch.tv/desertbus. It starts a week from tomorrow at time of airing. Anyway, the point is we have setup week and then actual doing Desert Bus week. So no checkpoint for a couple weeks, but then we'll be back like a weird phoenix from the ashes.
As long as we're doing ads, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan pre-release is happening this weekend, so tune in for that. On Friday.
At time of air, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes. And then if you're looking for merchandise, you can always go to store.loadingreadyrun.com, or if you want Desert Bus merchandise, you'll find out about that, but it is store.desertbus.org.
Yeah.
And if you wait until the Desert Bus merch goes live, you can buy that and your Loading Ready Run merch at the same time and for the same cart and get it all shipped to you together in a nice box. We except for stuff that's pre-order, which has to be delayed.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.